everybody, it's Christina Andino. I'm here with another episode of House History. I'm here in Willow Springs, up on the hill, and I just want to do a quick little introduction of the house I'm going to talk about today. It's the Sidney T. Hart house. Sidney T. Hart was the first village clerk from 1892 up until 1895. The house was actually built in the 1880s. And unfortunately, it's no longer standing. We only have some stairs. But I wanted to give you a little reference in terms of where the house is located. The owners down the line had actually owned the Billiards and Bonnie's Deli. That was the James Parkers in the 80s. So the house sat just right across the street here, and Robin Shook and John Lynn, who I talked to and featured their house in the last episode, they own the property now. And unfortunately, it fell into pretty bad disrepair, and so they had to have it raised. But we're gonna delve a little bit into the house because it really has a lot of history. It's a fascinating story and one that needs to be told. So come with me.
Sidney Thompson Hart was born on February 22nd, 1862. He came to Willow Springs from London in the late 1880s and lived here until his death in 1952 at the age of 90. The original Hart house was a 9-room house atop the 4th terrace of 4 terraces in what was then Mount Forest, Illinois, but is now Willow Springs. It was located on the south side of Archer Avenue, across from Bonnie's Deli and Illinois Billiards. It was built in 1886 after Sidney married Nettie Bell Abbott, daughter of pioneers Joseph and Adeline Abbott, and granddaughter of George W. Beebe, our first settler. Their only daughter, Grace, was born in 1889 and went on to marry Dr. Edward Schuessler and have 3 sons. But back to the house. The 2-story residence was constructed of brick on the first floor and fish scale shingles on the second. The first floor featured a kitchen, sitting room, parlor, and library, with an oak stairway leading up to the second floor, where there were 4 bedrooms and a bathroom. It had beautiful turned yellow pine woodwork, and an old family member recalls the shiniest floors you ever saw, and that it was the scene of many happy family gatherings, lively parties, piano music, good food, and singing. But who was Sidney Hart? He was a college-educated man hired by R.R. Donnelly and Sons at the age of 20 as a writer, but eventually going on to become a court reporter, covering thousands of court trials, commuting every day on the Chicago-Joliet Electric line between Willow Springs and his office in the Ashland Building in the Loop. Sidney's other interest was politics. In the 1888 primary, he ran unsuccessfully for nomination as a Republican candidate from Lyons for the Illinois General Assembly, promising, if elected, he would vote for the construction of the Sanitary and Ship Canal. He was one of the original signers of the 1892 petition to incorporate the village. He served as election judge for the successful referendum for incorporation and at a subsequent election to select the first village board. He was elected village clerk serving from 1892 to 1895 and again in 1897. Sidney Hart later lost a great deal of his wealth and, although not destitute, eventually sold the house. We cannot find the records of who owned the home thereafter, but they eventually left and the home fell into severe disrepair and sat vacant. In 1989, it was purchased by Jim and Bonnie Parker, who own and operate the Illinois Billiards and Bonnie's Deli and Cafe across the street on Archer. As Jim Parker tells me, they never did get around to restoring it, and it continued to sit vacant, naturally attracting nosy kids and ghost hunters. Some told of seeing apparitions in the windows, seeing chairs move themselves across the room, and strange unexplained noises. If that was the case or not, I don't know, as Robin and John from my last episode bought the land a few years ago and hoped to restore it as well, but it was not meant to be. It was beyond saving and now a safety concern. John Lynn shared pictures with me of the sad day when they demolished Hart House. I was not able to locate any pictures of the interior from when the house was in its prime, but maybe someday they will turn up. This was a sad end to an integral part of Willow Springs history, and in reflecting on Sidney Hart, his great-granddaughter shared, "There were many times when our friends would come calling, and if Pop were not there, it was a disappointment to them, as he served in the unofficial capacity of father confessor, recreation director, referee, and general counselor to not only me and my brothers, but to all of our friends. To know him was to love him. Goodbye, Hart House. I hope I did your story justice."
Hey guys, well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of House History on the Hart House. Next week I'm going to be talking about the Rudolph Teat farmstead and the family that owned and ran Santa Fe Speedway. It's one of our earlier families that a lot of the families intertwined. So there's a lot of history, and it might deserve a longer story at some point. But next week I'm going to start, and I'm going to delve into that one first. So join me next week. I'll see you then.